I've been thinking about this since last year because I knew this was going to be a really big senior class, and so I made some notes. I'm going to try to be concise here. At the same time, I'd like to talk about each of these guys just a little bit. So we have 18 guys here. It's the biggest senior class we've had. 14 of these guys have been with us for 6 years. Since they were in 7th grade. Some of these guys have known each other. In fact, a bunch of these guys went to the same elementary school. They've known each other since they were 6 years old or whatever. 6 of the guys up here are second generation runners, which is pretty amazing. 7 of them have brothers or had brothers on the team. I feel like they've been with us forever because they kind of have been. They're just a great group of young men. They're fun to be around. They're very social. They're very talkative. They're actually kind of funny. Maybe not as funny as they think they are sometimes, but they are fun to be around and fun to listen to them. They're really, like I said about some of the other groups, this is a group that you'd like to be a member of, and sometimes I don't really want to be 18 again. Wouldn't really wish that on anybody, but if I had to be 18 again, these are the guys I'd like to hang out with, at least for just a little while, and just to experience that. I can't imagine a better group of friends to have, and a better group of seniors to be leaders on our team. Most of these guys, in fact, started out as pretty average runners. Most of these guys were 13 and 14-minute guys when they joined us. And if, there were a few exceptions in here, but that's where most of our teams come from. And people look at us and go, oh, it must be nice to have all those talented guys. Well, yeah, it is. We've had talented guys, but more often we got a bunch of guys that start out running 13 or 14 minutes, which isn't anything terribly special when you're a 7th and 8th grader. But they get better. They stick with us. They believe in what we do, and they feed off of each other. And we go out to the park, and gosh, if you were ever down there on a day when we did the big ladder, when 102 guys got through that, it was magical. It was really something. And I don't have a magic wand, and as I told the guys, nobody's sprinkling fairy dust on them down at the park, but I'll tell you, there's something good going on there when we go down there and run intervals. Especially when we do the big ladder, it was really something to see. And when we run the Skittles and Ham Run down at the park and some of the other crazy workouts that we do, it's really fun to be a part of that, to see these guys. And a big part of that is because our seniors set the tone. Our seniors set the example. And when we did the big ladder, every one of these guys finished that. And then that just brought more guys into our group, and so they were terrific leaders all year, and in fact they've been terrific leaders since they were junior high runners. And 6 of these guys became varsity runners at some point in their career. 4 of them represented us in a state meet either last year or this year. 4 of them were all conference runners at some point along the way. They were incredibly dedicated to our program. Good leaders, in fact, excellent leaders who set an example and paid attention to the little guys on the team. And that doesn't happen, I don't think, in any other team. I wasn't talking about the Bourgets when I said little guys. I meant the 7th and 8th graders. They pay attention to him too, but they're really good with our young guys. And I've had coaches tell me, oh, it can't work. You cannot put 18-year-old seniors together with 12-year-old little babies in 7th grade. But we don't treat them like babies. They don't think they're babies. They think they're big guys. They think they're runners from the day they get here. And it works because these guys make it work. And I don't have to yell at them to get them to treat people well. They just do it, and part of it is a compliment to you parents, and the other part of it is because the older guys did it to them when they were 7th graders. And if you doubt that, you need to ask your son, who was the first big guy that came and talked to you when you were a little shy 7th grader at practice? And they will know who that was. Somebody was nice to them. They passed it on to the next group. That's how this works. They carried on to many traditions of our program. It's going to be very difficult to say goodbye to them. I'll do my best to get through this. I'll go kind of quickly, but it's a fairly long list. So they're all letter winners. And first on the list is Steph James, earning his first varsity letter. He joined us as a 7th grader. He ran 13-14. I saw a lot of potential. And He's a second generation guy, not because his father ran cross country, but because his father was on the track team when I was the head track coach here. So I count him as a second generation guy. He actually had a lot of potential as a runner, but he loved basketball. He left us for 2 years to go play basketball, and he came back to us. And I'm not sure it was his love of running. I'm pretty sure it was his love of the group, of the camaraderie that he had here. He finished his career with a 5K PR of 1944. He earns his first letter. Congratulations, Steph. Thank you. Next is Jacob Tracy. Jacob joined us as a 7th grader. He was a 15-minute guy when he started. He was really tiny, skinny little guy who liked to show up and he liked to run, and he got better by an average of 2 minutes per year, which is a lot, but it helps when you start out running 15 minutes. He left himself some room for improvement, but the key thing is he got better. He improved it, and that's all we really care about. My dad asked me, Don, why does anybody want to be the 112th guy on your team? And I said, because everybody wants to belong someplace. Everybody wants to be a part of something. And I said, Dad, doesn't matter if you're our best guy or our worst guy, everybody can get better. And he said, oh, that makes sense. He should know that. He's been a part of this for a long time, but my dad's 91, so he forgets some things. And that was my conversation with him, and it made me think of Jacob. Why does a 15-minute guy want to be part of this? Well, because you want to be a part of this. You want to belong here, and that's Jacob. He ran 20:09 as his career best last year as a junior. He was the JV conference champ at 800 meters last spring, so I was really optimistic that he was going to have a really good fall. He had a really good summer. He built himself a motorboat, and he drove up in his car, and he was there every day, and then he got hurt. And he spent most of the season in the boot or on a pair of crutches, which was so disappointing. But he was still an important part of our team, and so I want to congratulate Jacob on a great career and your first varsity letter. Thank you, Jacob. Ethan Massey's our next guy. You had to remember the first day Ethan Massey came to practice because he was wearing a coonskin cap. I don't know how many thousand guys have joined our team, but there's only one guy that wore a coonskin cap to the first day of practice when it was 95 degrees, and he wore it every day for his whole first couple of years, and he kind of retired it somewhere along the way, but he broke it out this year for the last race at conference, and it's a pretty ragged thing. I didn't ask to smell it. I don't want to know what it smells like after those, but it was, of course, he got the nickname of Crockett, which stuck with him. High energy kid, fun to have around. He improved a lot, always gave his best effort. If you watched Ethan run a race, you saw the determination on his face, you saw how hard he worked. He had a career best of 1940. He finished his season with his very best race of the season at the conference meet, and again, wore the coonskin cap. So congratulations and thank you for having contributed, Ethan. Thank you. Next up, Bryce Herman. Bryce joined us as a 7th grader, and most 7th graders are kind of tiny, but Bryce was never real tiny. Big, strong kid. He ran 14 minutes for 2 miles. He always looked like one of the most athletic guys on the team. I always thought that Bryce was going to develop into a really good high school runner. Bryce made progress. He just made progress at a little slower rate than some of our guys. I just don't know that he has the muscle makeup of a pure distance runner. But he's got the mind and the attitude of a runner. He shows up every day. He's that quiet, smart, polite kid who always gives his best effort, and unfortunately just isn't blessed with great ability as a distance runner. And he's actually, some of us are just a little big to be distance runners, and that can be sort of a detriment. He had a career best of 21:30. Always had a positive attitude and made a positive contribution to our team. And I'm going to miss Bryce next year, so congratulations on your first letter, Bryce. Thank you. Next up, Truman Johnson. Truman joined us as a 7th grader. He ran 14 minutes for 2 mile. The big, tall kid who looks like a runner and has the best nickname I think that we've ever had. He is known as El Presidente. He's got it on a t-shirt someplace. Always works hard, always does his best, improved every year by 30 or 40 seconds. Has a career best of 1940 that he ran in his last meet of his career at the Valley Conference meet, which is really, if you're going to end your career, what better way to go out than run your PR in the last race that he ran for us. It was a really good end to a great career, and Truman was just one of those many guys that starts out on our team when we start out with that big group and we work our way down to those lucky few that get to represent us, and I appreciate his efforts. I'll miss you next year, Truman. Congratulations on your first letter. Thank you. And is he the only guy that wore a tie for today? I think so. Of course, he's the president. Next up, Peyton Markey. It's one of the McDill boys. I know it sounds like a gang, but well, they kind of are. Yeah. He joined us a year late. He joined us as an 8th grader, and he also has a nickname, which is PP Mama. I didn't ask for too many details on that, but the thing Peyton's a great guy to be around. He's another one of those smart, polite, nice kids, hardworking kids. He's also a hockey kid, and sometimes that doesn't work. Sometimes two sports don't blend very well together, but somehow it did for him. And I'm not sure how he did it, and I think some of you other hockey guys should ask him how he did this. He was able to blend our team and the hockey team, and he made it work. And he never seemed to shortchange us. And I assume he didn't shortchange his other team, but somehow he made that work. It was a great balancing act, and that's, I think, one of the things that high school sports should be about, is doing more than one sport and trying to find a way to balance those two things. And I really appreciated the fact that he was always there. He didn't miss practices. He didn't make excuses. Oh, I got to go here, I got to do that. He always gave his best effort. He was especially good at supporting his teammates. He was always there, always friendly and sociable and fun to be around and just a joy to have on the team. His goal was to break 20 minutes. He came so close every single race his entire senior year. He was within 20 seconds 8 times. He never quite got there. I just wanted to go over and push him across the line at Manitowoc when he ran 20:07, and yet he just really added so much to our team, and he's just a great young man, and I wish him the best of luck with his hockey season, and thank you for all you've done, Peyton. Thank you. Hugh Gunderson. I also count Hugh as a second-generation guy, even though his dad was not a cross-country runner. He threw shot and disc on the track team when I was coaching. So I think of him as second-generation Gundo. And he doesn't really have the body of a runner, but he's certainly got the heart of a runner. He's got the heart of an athlete. He's really determined. He's really one of those great guys that joined us as a 7th grader. He was a 16-minute guy when he started out, and he had a whole different body. He spent the last 6 years building himself into an athlete, and I think it helped him for swimming. Obviously, it helped him as a runner. Some guys, you know, they come to practice, they act like, well, I'm not really a runner. I'm not really here to run. I'm here to get better for swimming. He never did that. When it was time to run, he ran like a runner. He went out and believed that he was a runner. On race day, he believed that he could race, and turned out that he ran 22 minutes as a freshman, but he ran 19:10 this year at the Rapids Invite. So when you get into the low 19s, that's really some good high school running. Another one of those nice, smart, polite young men that we seem to collect on this team, and he will be greatly missed next year. So congratulations on your first letter, Jim. Next is the guy who's just known by the letter G. I almost never use either of his names, first or last. He's just simply G. Started in 7th grade. He was a 15-minute 2-miler. Not naturally gifted as a runner, but a gifted teammate, a gifted leader, a gifted personality. The kind of kid that you want to have on the team is the kind of kid you want to have for a friend. Someone you want to hang around with, somebody you want to talk to, especially if there's girls walking by. I thought he would possibly leave us for the soccer team at some point, but his friends were here. This was his home, this was his family, and that's what this is about in the end. Finding people that are your friends, that stick with you, people that like you, no matter what. And that's the beauty of this group. And I'm so glad that he stuck with us. It was always his goal to run. I was trying to put the words run and sub together. Run sub 20 minutes. He got really close his sophomore year. He had a bit of a tough junior year, but he really focused himself and dedicated himself this summer. And he worked his way all the way down to 2015 at the conference meet. And that was his career best on the last race. And I know he felt a little bad about that because he's heard me say that you really are a runner when you break 20 minutes. But gee, I got to tell you, I think you're really a runner. So congratulations on your first letter. Thank you. Tyler, Big Veg. I've called him Big Veg for 6 years now, and I still, and I had his dad on the team, and I can't spell his last name, and even when his little brother graduates, I still don't think I'll be able to handle that last name, but he's a second-generation runner, and he's just one of those many guys who started out so slight and so small, and in a lot of cases, as Tyler did, he started out running 13 minutes and just got a little better each year because he liked being here, because he wanted to be a part of this, because he wanted to join in and wanted to contribute to our team in whatever way he could. Oh, we lose something? Oh. Plug came out. And really, that's the beauty of our team, is that, yeah, you can be the #1 runner, you can be the all-conference guy or the all-state guy, but you can also be the guy that's just a good supportive teammate, that cheers your friends on, supports your friends, pushes your teammates in practice, and helps the younger guys around you. And that's really what Tyler brings to our team each day. His career best is 18:33. He's just another one of those many smart young men that will be very difficult to replace, except that somebody planted a baby carrot, and I think that one day, if he's lucky, he'll grow up to be everything that his big brother is. So congratulations, Tyler, on your second letter. Lucas Falkovich. Lucas joined us as an 8th grader. He ran 13 minutes. I'm not sure what caused him to join us. I think it was his good friend Hugh that dragged him over one summer morning to my house. He lives somewhere in the neighborhood, comes biking over, and we're just so glad that Hugh brought him over to us and that he joined our team. And he's just such a positive attitude, a positive addition. He, like Hugh, guys that are not necessarily built like runners, but guys that show up and are determined to give their best effort every time at practice and every race they run. He's a regular on my front lawn during the summer. He has a career best of 18:58. He ran his best race of the year this year at conference when he ran just a little over 19 minutes to end his career with us. A very important part of our team, and I want to thank you for all you've contributed, Lucas. Congratulations on your second varsity letter. Thank you. Ethan Pilat, aka Peanut, joined us as an 8th grader, and he was amazingly good. He ran 11:40 for 2 miles as an 8th grader. He had a lot of talent, but then for some reason he decided to leave us. He tried another sport for a couple of years, but it didn't really work for him. And he came back to us because he missed his friends. He missed our group. He missed what we have here. And when he came back, his teammates had moved ahead of him. He had a lot of work to do to get caught up. So his junior year when he came back, he really struggled. But then this summer, he put himself 100% into this. I haven't seen many guys in the history of our program that ran as much or worked as hard as Ethan did this summer. And if you asked anybody on this team, they would have told you that Ethan was going to be one of our top runners throughout the season. Everybody believed that he was going to be a scorer for us throughout the season, that he would run it in the state meet for us. That didn't happen. And that's really unfortunate. And as a coach, it's one of the things that just breaks my heart when I see a guy work as hard as Ethan did, and he seemingly got nothing out of it, except that he did. What he got is a lot of respect from all of us who were there and saw that. For all of us on this team, we know how important he was to us, to our team, and how much he contributed, even though he never got to run in a state meet for us. And that's a shame. But I still contend that without Ethan and the things he did this summer and what he did for us in the early weeks of the season, I don't think we'd have been as good a team as we are. I know we wouldn't have been. So he's one of those incredible people that is going to be greatly missed. And I admire the fact that he just, as frustrated as he got, he never gave up, he never quit, and he never soured on our team or this experience. And I appreciate everything you did for us, Ethan. Thank you so much. Congratulations. Andrew Ross wins his third varsity letter for us. Sometimes known as Rojas because of a little error at the Nina invite when he went up to accept the trophy for a kid named Rojas. It did sound a lot like Ross, I have to tell you that. Andrew joined us as a 7th grader, ran 13 minutes, the big, tall, strong kid who loved cross-country skiing and for some reason drives a Mercedes. He ran 1840 as a freshman. I thought he was going to be a varsity runner at some point along his career. He got better, he just didn't get better quickly enough, and there's just so many good guys on our team. And after running 1840 as a freshman, I thought that at some point he might be a guy that runs low 17s or 16 minutes. He spent a lot of time cross-country skiing. He's an excellent skier, and he had a really good senior season for us. He ran his career best at the end of the season, ran 18:29 at our conference meet to finish 18th at the Valley Conference meet. 16 of the guys ahead of him were teammates. Very important part of our team, and I want to thank you for all you've contributed, Andrew. Congratulations on your third varsity letter. Thank you, Andrew. Simon Bushmaker. It's hard for me to imagine a smarter, nicer, more good-looking, handsome, outgoing young man than Simon. The best part about Simon is once in a while he unleashes his full personality, and it's a lot of fun to be around when that happens. When he leads stretching, it's fun to be there. It's fun to see that, and especially when he gets the little guys going on something, it's really great. He's got just some really great leadership skills that I hope he continues to develop and show to other people than just us up in the wrestling room on occasion. Started as a 7th grader, ran 13 minutes, got injured his freshman year, really didn't progress very much, but he had a good sophomore year, had a great junior year. He ran 17:23 as a junior. I was pretty sure he was going to be on our varsity. He spent a lot of time running during the spring at whatever school he attended up north, and he was all set to have the best season of his career, but he had a foot injury early in the season that set him back. But he never lost his enthusiasm, the excitement he has for the team. He never stopped contributing in whatever way he could, and he's just a guy that is going to be greatly missed next year. I don't know what we'll do without him. Pass some of your leadership skills along to your little brother Dukas, and I hope that he follows your example. So thank you, Simon, for 6 great years. Congratulations. Next up, Johnny Suplina. Johnny was earning his 4th varsity letter. Joined us as a 7th grader. He ran 14 minutes. He's 2nd generation, but actually I think of him as 3rd generation because his grandfather ran cross country at Stevens Point High School in 1963. No, I did not coach him. One of the few good runners that ever came through here that I didn't have the honor to have coached. So I think of him as a 3rd generation runner. He improved a lot as an 8th and 9th grader. By the time he was a sophomore, he was on our varsity. He spent just 1 meet on our varsity. He ran 17:40 as a sophomore, and I was pretty sure he was on his way to being the next great Suplina runner. Unfortunately, he had a little health scare, and turned out not to be anything real serious, but it's the kind of thing that when you go see a doctor and you're a kid in high school and they hook you up to a heart monitor, that's not good for anybody. And so he had to work through that, and it was real difficult. And I know he thought about leaving us and going to play soccer for a little while, and I'm so glad that he didn't. I'm so glad that he came back like so many of these other guys. It's hard to leave your group of friends and your family that you've been a part of for so long. I feel like I've known him his whole life, because I actually have. He's just one of those super smart, quiet kids that we collect on this team. The polite, good kid that you want your son to hang around with, and maybe you want your daughter to date. I don't know. Or your sister. I'll leave that one. It's going to be really strange to not have Johnny here next year, but I've so enjoyed getting to know him and watching him grow up for the last 6 years. So congratulations, Johnny. Thank you very much. I've got 4 more. Danny Kiefer, come on up here. What can I say about Danny that I haven't already said? What insult can I throw at him that I haven't already thrown at him? I love to pick on Danny Kiefer. I'm sorry, I love it. I love it for 2 reasons. 1, because I love Danny, and 2, because his parents say that I can pick on him. I have their permission. And we all do pick on him, yes. He joined us as a 7th grader, and it's the legendary story of the little kid whose brother brought him to practice to the morning run at my house, and he could barely get out of the car, and he could barely walk, and he looked like a newborn fawn, and I didn't know what we were going to do with this kid. And I think it was a Friday, and we did a 2-mile pickup, and I thought he would never get there, and I thought he'd never come back the next week, but he did. And I'm so glad that he did. And he just got better. And he's just one of my long list of stories of why I never judge a kid too quickly by their first impression. I had a kid named Keith Hansen when I first started coaching, who I would have cut in a second. I'm glad I didn't, because he ended up being a state champ and a Division I All-American, and he ran in the Olympic trials. And then I had a kid named Scott Longley. I wrote a book about him. Sometimes I think I got to write a book about Danny. Maybe that's my next project. He shocked me that first year when he ran 12:38 for 2 miles. I don't know how he did it. And as a freshman, he ran 17:50 for 5K, which was astounding. The progress that he made from 7th to 9th grade. And then he ran 17:40 as a junior, and 17:40 as a sophomore. Last year, as a junior, he ran 16:44 at conference. He ran in the state meet. He was the best 7th runner on any team in the state meet last year. He really dedicated himself to work this summer. He just did so much running. He was so fit. He was ready to have a great senior year, and I don't know what happened, but for some reason, it didn't happen for him. And he did not get to run in the state meet this year, and that's really unfortunate. But if there's anybody on our entire team that could handle being an alternate, it's Danny Kiefer. He was entirely supportive of every one of his teammates, did everything he could to encourage them, and he never whined and he never complained about the fact that for whatever reason, his senior season didn't quite work out for him, and I admire the fact that he just handled everything so well, but that's Danny. If you know him, he handles everything well. That's why everyone loves Danny, especially the girls on the swim team. And Danny loves everybody, especially the girls on the swim team. So thank you, Danny. Congratulations on your 4th letter. I'm going to miss you, man. Ask James Jacobs to do his imitation of Danny sometime. Do it up. Stand it. No. All right, Christian Manthe, come on up. Christian Manthe joined us as a 7th grader, and I actually have forgotten how bad he was until he reminded me. He reminded me that he was one of the little guys that I jogged in on the last day so he wouldn't be embarrassed at inter-squad, because he finished in 28 minutes, 19 seconds, and he finished in 100th place at our inter-squad meet. So when you're the 100th man on your own team, that's a big hill to climb. That's a good reason to go home and quit, but he didn't, and I'm glad that he didn't. He improved a lot as an 8th grader. He made a big breakthrough as he got to his sophomore year, and especially his junior year, where he spent most of the season on varsity. Just missed making our state team by a matter of a little more than a second. And it was one of those harsh realities of being on a really good team. And it was unfortunate that Christian didn't get to run in 2 state meets, but he dedicated himself to his senior year. And like so many of our guys, he didn't sit around and whine and complain about the fact that he didn't get to do something. He decided that he was going to step up and do it the next season. And he took full advantage of his senior year. He put in a wonderful summer of running. He was a great example for our young guys, a great leader for everyone on this team. He was absolutely our most consistent runner throughout the season, one of the most consistent runners that we've ever had on this team. If you look on the chart that Kevin made up, you'll see that. He had a career best of 16:37 at sectionals. He ran 16:39 at state. He ran 16:38 somewhere in there, and he ran a 16:40 somewhere in there. All his times fell within a couple of seconds. And he ran such a great last mile at the state meet. If you look at the live results on PT timing, you'll notice that there's only 11 guys in the entire Division I race that ran a better last mile than Christian did. All 11 of those guys made first team All-State. And that was a huge accomplishment. And he was the guy doing everything he could to try to get us back into that race with Middleton. And he just, it just wasn't enough, but it wasn't a lack of effort. It was a great, great effort. And as I told him many times, he was the glue that held our group together. He was the guy that took our guys out on pace and held everybody together and set us up for all the great races that we had. And whenever I need something, whenever I have a question, like today when I wondered where the conference trophy went, I texted Christian, and he got right back to me. I don't know if he was in class, I hope he wasn't, but he texted me right back that the Bourgeois were trying to steal it, so we got it back from them today. I can always count on Christian to find out things for me, to help me with every other situation, and to be a resource for his teammates. He's going to leave an awfully big hole on our team, and I don't know how we're going to plug that, except as luck would have it, he's got a little brother who may one day grow up to be a pretty good runner, right? That's a lot to throw on him because he's only a 7th grader. But Sam, just follow your brother's example, and you'll be okay. So thank you so much, Christian, for all you've done. Congratulations. Jake Lepak. No one had a more unusual career than Jake Lepak. He started out as a 7th grader, ran 12 minutes, which was pretty good. He got hurt as an 8th grader. He got hurt as a 9th grader. He got hurt as a 10th grader. He was always hurt. Everybody said it. Lepak's always hurt. Lepak can't stay healthy. That was the thing on I just called him his dad's name, 2nd generation guy. That's what people said about Jake. And then one of our guys took him running in the winter. And he got bigger, and he got stronger, and he got tougher, and he got faster, and he turned into a really outstanding runner during his junior year, and he had a terrific track season last year. He was just off the podium at the state meet in the mile, and he decided this summer that he didn't want to be average, and he didn't want to be good. He didn't even want to be real good. He wanted to be great. And he decided to take a chance. And he trained harder than anybody has on this team in the last 40 years. You got to go all the way back to one of Kurt Lepak's teammates, Keith Hansen, to find a guy that ran more and worked harder than Jake Lepak. Did he do too much? Yes, probably. But I wasn't going to squash his dream. I wasn't going to tell him he couldn't do it. And if we'd have held the state meet in the end of July, he'd have been our state champ. And if not for a very bad sinus infection, he'd have been on the podium last Saturday. And I know that for certain. And it's just unfortunate that he not only had a leg injury, plus he had this sinus infection that just wouldn't go away. And I'm not sure he's entirely healthy now, but he might find out on Sunday. He really only had one day when he was healthy. That was at the Rapids Invite. He ran 16:01. He was the individual champion there. And the next Monday, he was so sick he went out and fell asleep in his big green truck and got locked out of school because they did some sort of weird lockdown here. And then we knew he was sick at conference and he was sick at sectionals, and he got just healthy enough to run 16 at 17 at the state meet, good enough for 20th, and he made second team All-State, and he's one of the toughest, strongest, most determined runners I've ever had the good fortune of coaching, and I look forward to seeing what he can do during track, and I wish him nothing but the best as he goes off and runs in college. And I want to thank you, Jake, for all you've done for our team. So thank you and congratulations. And last on my list, and I know this is taking me a while, I appreciate you hanging in there. Because I know you could be watching the Kardashians or something, whatever people watch on Thursdays. I saved Tristan for last because there's a real good story here. There's a lot of good stories with Tristan. If you know Tristan, everything's a really good story. 6 years ago on the first day of practice, I wasn't here yet. It was about 7:30 in the morning, and Daylin Hopp walked in because she was swim coaching, and she saw a little guy sitting in the corner. She went over and said, figuring he must be a cross-country runner, she said, "Hey, are you excited about your first day of cross-country?" And this kid said, "I've been waiting my whole life for this day." He was 12. That's not a whole lot of life to wait, but that is exactly something Tristan would say. And he meant it. And when I got there and she told me that, I said, "I don't even know who that is." Well, obviously I know his dad, and because I coached his dad, Shannon, but I knew the kid even before I laid eyes on him, and I liked the kid before I even knew him, and nothing he's done to diminish that has diminished that, although he's tried at times. And he's just one of those wonderful young men that we don't try to change him into being something that he's not. We just try to enjoy what he is and make him be the best person that he can be. And I think that's worked with Tristan. He was a 12-minute guy as a 7th grader. He was one of our best 8th and 9th graders, but he had a real breakout season as a sophomore. He became our number 2 runner at the state meet on a team that finished runner-up. Tristan is the only guy in this room that has 2 state medals. He was on a runner-up team 2 years ago and our runner-up team this year. And I know that we both wish that one of those medals was gold, but as he said, if you put them together, he thinks 2 silvers probably count for a gold. And I'll go with that math. I'll take that. He had a few bumps in the road along the way, or perhaps a few light poles in the way along the way. And I know that at times he frustrated me and his parents and his teammates, but we never doubted his heart. We never doubted his level of commitment to our program, and the fact that if we put him out on a course, we always knew that Tristan would give us his very, very best effort. Unfortunately, this year he had a setback with a sinus infection, but he bounced back from that, and he ran 16:41, which is his best race of the season at sectionals. He ran a great time at the state meet, a great race. He was the best 6th runner in the state of Wisconsin by 27 seconds. He was he was in fact the best number 6 runner that we've ever had on that state meet course. It wasn't always easy for him. There were some difficulties, there were some obstacles along the way, but he is that young man who loved being here, and I always knew, no matter what else happened, that when we got him to practice, he would contribute to this team, and he was good for us, and we're good for him, and it's going to be so difficult for me to start a year without him, but thank you, Tristan, for all you've done, and congratulations. Thank you. I should also say that Tristan at the state meet, in the team scores, had a 39. That was his team totals. And you know what we did with that number? We threw it away. We didn't need it. And Josh Bourget gave us a team score of 45, and we took that one and threw it away. And there's 18 other teams in the state that would have taken either of those numbers, and it would have cut a whole lot of points off their score, but we didn't need them. That's how good we were. In fact, they could have run on any other team. They would have been 6th and 7th runners for Middleton as well. So that's an indication of how deep our team is and the quality of runners that we have. So a few final awards here. Well, let me shake some hands before we do this. Or should we just keep them up here? Yeah, just. All right, we'll try to finish up with this. All conference runners. The Bourget brothers, Jake and Josh. In either order. Also first team, Christian Manthe. First team, James Jacobs. And first team, Jake Lepak. Almost finished Jake.
So, these 3 coaches have done a lot for us over the years and have basically become like our second fathers. 3rd and 4th fathers too. I know my math. So we have some gifts to show our appreciation for them. Just a second, they're taking their time. They're slow. I'm the fast one on the team. You can't tell. What? Like this? Okay. Okay, so one of your jokes. Why do fish live in salt water? Why? Because pepper makes them sneeze.
So our first gift to the coaches is some sleeping masks, because I always preach to the guys that it's very important to get your 8 hours and make sure you go to sleep on time. So I thought it was appropriate if I give them to the coaches too to help them get their 8 hours. Hello everybody. So it's a little known that our coaches, as young as they look, they come with a little bit of age and injuries, so they've been on the bike a little bit, all 3 of them. So I thought it would be appropriate to get them all some new license plates for their bikes. So Don says "Born to Ride," right? The Wisconsin plate. Coach C says "Boys Rule," and then very appropriate for Kevin, it says "Princess" on it. So Kevin seems to only own one winter hat, and it's a black and orange skull cap that he just loves to run in anytime the temperature drops under like 80. So we thought we'd get him a new hat, and knowing Kevin, he may be the most competitive person on the planet, and so we thought it'd be very appropriate to get him this new beanie that simply says "#1.
Hello, everyone. For our next coach, for our next present, it's for Don. We know that the 7th and 8th graders can be We know that 7th and 8th graders can be pretty rowdy sometimes, so we got a little speaker that says, "The Motivator," you know, to help reach those little kids.
So, as we all know on this team, teenage boys somewhere between the age of 12 and 14 really find their voice. And for Coach C, since he always rides with the junior high boys, we thought it'd be nice to get him some earplugs so he doesn't have to always listen to them when they're singing.
All right, so we know that Coach gets very emotional on awards night, so I decided we get him something very special. I introduced to you Banky's Hanky.
So, and I know those were a couple, as real as they seem, those are just a couple gag gifts, you know, as they probably can use the license plates, but we did get them some real gifts so they can open these up.
So, for the coaches to remember us by, my father made cards with all of us running on them. And so we signed them, and we have each one for the coaches, so you can always remember the class of 2020.
So me personally, I'm always in the shop at school. I always show up to practice with my hands all calloused up and all dirty. So I decided to put that time to work and made all the coaches individually a Splash CC sign with their coach and their last name on it.
So our coaches obviously make a lot of sacrifices during the season, being away from home a lot, and of course their wives also have to put up with that, them being gone a lot. So we decided to get them a little thank you, so we got them all flowers.
I know a couple of us guys have a couple of things to say, and I have to be honest, I'm not prepared for this at all. I wrote some stuff down and then I forgot it. So a couple of things I want to talk about though is how much this team means to me. I remember joining this as a 7th grader, being forced by my mother. I love you, Mom. And what really means a lot to me is the coaches and these guys around here and what they've done for me and for my family. And these guys have basically become my family. And it really means a lot to me and the coaches for raising me to be not a bad kid. I don't really know how else to put it. And then my friends to make me also not be a bad kid. So I just want to say thank you all to your parents for having good children, and thank you to my friends and my coaches for being some good guys. Thank you.
So, unlike Christian, I actually did come prepared, but everything I was going to say has kind of already been said, so I'm going to just kind of do not really what I do best. But the amount of importance that this team means to me can't really be measured by anything, and to finally say my goodbyes is definitely very hard, and as a lot of the guys know, I'm usually the emotional guy of the team. I take a lot of my times to heart, but I think one of the things I need to thank everyone here for is teaching me one of the most important lessons, which is that everyone here is much more than their times. You can ask anyone and there's a story behind how hard they work. And as the parents here, you get to see the results of what we do here on race day in our times, but you don't get to see the amount of work that goes into going down to the park, running around town, and unless you come around and see us in some very exposing shorts that we don't really know if we should be allowed to wear, but that's really all I can say is just thank you for being my second family and giving me what I needed, which was a place to go.
I'll keep it short. So as you may know, I like math. So I calculated how many hours I've spent like on the team, either at practice or in summer running. I didn't do everything, just like practice summer running races. So it's 1,400 hours over the past 6 years, which is 84,000 minutes. And I'd give anything for just 5 more minutes.
I'm not good at math, so I'll tell a story. In sixth grade, I was at a crossroads between football or running cross country. It was a difficult decision at that time. So I decided to try to go for a run in a hayfield outside of my grandmother's house. I didn't make it half a mile without falling onto the ground and having my sister pick me up on our four-wheeler. I was certain that cross country wasn't for me. But then my dad told me to don't give up. Those 3 simple words would shape the rest of my running career. Without my classmates in the FMBC, I wouldn't be the determined, motivated runner that I am today. Throughout the years, I've given labels to each season so I can remember them by a simple word or phrase. 7th being clueless, 8th the beginning, 9th transformation, 10th breakout, 12th the I told you so season. 11th grade doesn't deserve a label for many reasons you may know. August 19th, 2019, I was told devastating news that I was under academic suspension. I remember the day and place Don and Kevin broke the news to me. I cried pretty hard. There was one thing that I remember Don then told me. It would stick for me for the rest of the season. It was to don't give up. So I didn't, and I made sure that I would not disappoint again. We all get second chances, but we only get one chance to take them. Thank you all for the amazing years of love and support.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks for coming. If there were any problems with any of the awards, misspelled names, or anything you got that you shouldn't have gotten or didn't get that you should have, come up and see us about that. Thank you, everybody. We hope to see you back here next year.